every day I wake and everything is broken. Turning off my phone just to get out of bed. Get home every evening and history's repeating. Turning off my phone 'cause it's hurting my chest. Yeah, and heaven knows I'm not helpless. Yeah, but what can I do? I can't see the use in me crying if I'm not even trying to make the change I wanna see. I can't sit and hope, I can't just sit and pray that I can find the love when all I see is pain. Falling to my knees, and though I do believe, I can't just preach, baby, preach. I can't just preach, baby, preach. All I hear is voices, everybody's talking. Nothing real is happening 'cause nothing is new. Now when all is tragic and I just feel sedated, why do I feel numb? Is that all I can do? Yeah, and heaven knows I'm not helpless. Yeah, but I'm only human. I can't see the use in me crying if I'm not even trying to make the change I wanna see. I can't sit and hope, I can't just sit and pray that.
Good evening and welcome to The Nest. I'm your host, Maureen Waititu, and as always, we bring you real stories from real people. What comes to mind when you hear of positive masculinity? I know, feminism, all these words that we throw around. What is the role of our community? What is the role of our church? What is the role of our families, basically parents, into building positivity in the masculinity that the boy child is growing up in? Where does the boy child begin? Where does he go? Is it to the church? Is it to their friends during that happy hour every evening? Where do they start? Those are some of the questions that we're going to answer in today's wonderful conversation with two lovely ladies in special places of leadership. And just before we meet them, I would like you to watch this short video and we'll be right back.
What is toxic masculinity? Everything you need to know. Toxic masculinity is a popular term used nowadays to describe the behavior of men that are problematic. While it may sound demeaning to men, toxic masculinity does not criticize masculinity itself. Instead, it refers to the adherence men may have to societal standards for masculinity that can prove to be harmful to men and society as well. Masculinity is not inherently a problem in society. However, what is expected from it can lead to the development of such elements. Common traits. Toxic masculinity exhibits traits that are characteristic to men, such as 1. Aggression, 2. Being stoic, 3. Physical and mental toughness, 4. Emotional insensitivity, 5. Self-sufficiency, 6. Discrimination against everything not heterosexual. Men displaying affection or sensitivity is taken as a sign of them having homosexual tendencies. This goes against society's expectations of men being attracted to straight, cisgender women only, which propagates heterosexism in men. Another common phrase is, "I'm a guy, what do you expect?" Used in conjunction with the perceived social norms and roles that men are expected to adhere to, this phrase is essentially a justification of actions that are in line with toxic masculinity. Men are supposed to own up to how society expects them to act. What causes it? Toxic masculinity is not inherent to men. It is not genetic. A single cause for it cannot be pinpointed, since it has to do with the societal perception of men. The perception has been developed over millennia and has been influenced by culture, religion, and economic conditions. Moreover, It can vary across age groups and can also show differences according to classes. However, all experts agree that society reinforces and nurtures toxic masculinity. Several studies have discussed the negative effects of toxic masculinity on a man's health. While it is commonly seen as harmful to others, men face real harm because of it. Adhering to it is believed to affect the physical and mental health of men. It can result in depression and poor sleep. Men are less likely to seek problems for both physical and mental issues because they do not want to be seen as weak by society. Impact on society. The effects of toxic masculinity on society are widely studied and reported. It is strongly believed to enforce rape culture. The aggression attributed to toxic masculinity is also believed to be responsible for violence in society.
Welcome back. Do you think the girl child is more empowered than the boy child? What do you think of positive masculinity? What is it even? What are we referring to? Today's guests are the most amazing pair I've ever had. And they're two great women who are working hard to ensure that there is a balance against all these aspects. And before I introduce them, I want you to just make sure you go to our social media pages and share your thoughts and your feedback. And if you have a story or something that is exciting here on The Nest, please feel free to reach out to us. For now, karibuni, beautiful ladies. I usually don't like to say even your names because, you know, the only person who can introduce themselves best is you. So I think let's start to my far right. Who do I have in studio today?
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Nora Naitore Njoni. I am a priest of the National Independent Church of Africa. Mm-hmm. This is an independent church founded by Africans themselves. Wow. I am a gender activist, mm-hmm. and I am really committed to ensuring that there is gender justice, mm-hmm. in the church, mm-hmm. and also in the community.
Wonderful.
Yes.
All right. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And thank you for creating time to come and sit with us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Thank you. Please.
I am Kendi Muthomi. I'm a young feminist, mm-hmm. and nowadays I like to call myself a gender justice advocate.
Nice.
And I'm really happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Positive masculinity is, mm-hmm. one of the topics that is in my heart, because we need to bring the boys also and the men,
yes.
in this conversation of equality. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So before we get into the topic, which is all about empowering the boy child or just balancing the act, the girl child being empowered, the boy child feeling left out, and us trying to do what we can, you know, because we're doing it from different levels. I'm doing it in my home, being a mother to boys. You're doing it in your church. You're doing it in your community. But how did you get here? Maybe we can start with Reverend. I know you left that title out. I was hoping you say I'm Reverend Nora. But how did you get here? Where did you grow up? How did you get into this kind of leadership? Because it's rare to see women in this position.
Okay, thank you so much. I grew up in Meru, and as a young girl, I would really say that I was also affected by the patriarchal system, mm-hmm. that we have in the community, mm-hmm. where as a young woman, mm-hmm. I grew up with the notion that men are superior, they are better than women, mm-hmm. and at some point I didn't really believe that I could be a leader, mm-hmm. but thanks to my father, mm-hmm. who is also a priest, yes. in our church, mm-hmm. He was able to empower me and to bring out the best in me. Yes. I would say that he is a gender justice, mm-hmm. activist, mm-hmm. and he believed that myself and my brother, mm-hmm. we can be leaders, and we can really take up our positions in the society. Mm-hmm. And I believe that formed a basis for me, mm-hmm. to be a church leader, mm-hmm. where I am right now. Yes. In our church, we are not very many women leaders. compared to the large congregation of women, because in any church that you go into right now, the majority of the congregants are women compared to men. But then when it comes to leadership, there is a shift. You find that the majority of the priests, the majority of the committee members of that parish, they are men. And so my father, being a priest and a man, he was able to empower me and to equip me and to bring out the best of me. And I felt that I can really be a church leader, and at the same time I can empower other women out there to take up leadership positions, not only in church, but also in the community. And it's a joy for me when I see other young women, younger than me, coming up and taking up leadership positions in my church and in my community. And yeah, that's where I come from. And I haven't reached Sijafika. The journey is still on. I'm still enhancing my skills so that I can be a better advocate of women's rights, so that I can be a better priest, a woman priest. I know that the community judges a woman priest harshly compared to a man. The slightest mistake that I make, it's projected to the whole world that I've done this and that, compared to a male priest when he does the same mistake. And so my aim is to reach a point where I'm able to stand on my ground, stand for women's rights, empower other women out there, and give them a voice to be able to stand on their own, represent other younger women, to be role models. And so, yeah, I haven't reached there, but I'm towards reaching that destination. Yes, thank you.
I think the journey to your leadership is so beautiful. I love how you said your father took you and your brother, this is a boy and a girl, and decided they'll take the same path. I'll give them equal opportunities as a parent. And here you are, and you're extending that hand. And I can't wait for us to revisit the role of a parent in making us who we are. All right, how about Candy? How did you end up here? Who is Candy? Who is that little girl? Where did she grow up?
I grew up in Nyeri, but in regards to today's conversation, I grew up as a very vocal child. I would speak out a lot, go for drama festivals. When someone was doing something wrong, I would be the person saying that is not right, treat people better. And as you've said, the role of a parent, my mom has been very supportive. She was the one who was telling me, do it. And when the teachers were saying, you would fail because you're multitasking, drama festivals and this and that, she would always be there, that everything is possible, just create a balance. So I grew up believing that a woman can do anything she wants, and you need to go for it, unafraid, unapologetically, and with everything you got. Even when people judge you, when you have that self-esteem and confidence in yourself, then ultimately everything comes to you. So in my community, I was not blind to the things that were happening. I was volunteering with Red Cross. I was volunteering for theatre arts to schools that are needy. Even in high school, we'd close and I'd go and rehearse the set books and all that, just to give everyone an equal platform to have what I had in my school. When we had the shows that were airing the set books and all that. So from a young age, I was the kid with the performers, asking everybody to donate towards ending cancer and all that. Yeah, which led me here. I took a path of noticing that as a young girl and as a young woman, if I didn't take that step to dare to be and to do what I want to do, then ultimately I'd not be here and I'd not have helped the few that I have managed to help so far. And I took heavily the access to opportunities for everybody, because one thing I tell everybody, education is something that cannot be taken from you, but girls were not given an equal platform back then as the boys, and we knew maths is for boys, physics near boys. So even you, when you're entering high school, you already know, I'm not choosing physics and I'm not choosing chemistry, and I don't want to be a doctor because boys are the only ones who get A and all that. But with time, I learned that encouraging everybody, now more specifically young girls and young women, to dare to do what they want to do despite the challenges, because we have so many challenges. There's the menstrual aspect, there's the sexual harassment that happens to us girls at a very young age, patriarchy, these funny things that lead up to even the 16 days of activism, cyberbullying. I remember that time is when Facebook was getting into the community back when I was in class. I won't say so that you don't guess my age. yeah. So I think looking at all those gaps in my community made me have that interest to also mentor other girls and encourage them to just push and do the best they can for themselves, because that saves them from a lot that happens to us as young women growing up. So that's how I ended up in the community and doing this wonderful work that we do. And as Reverend said, we are keeping on. Yes.
It's hard not to notice how early in your lives you were pushed to what you do today, and positively so, and by the people who mattered the most, and that is, in your case, your mom, in Reverend's case, her dad. And I think since we're already speaking about it, and according to what you see, what gaps and what roles do you see parents playing in our conversation today, whereby I think before we came on, we were talking about boys and the neglect when they become circumcised. There's the girl who is given the broom as early as possible. We are bought for dolls and kitchen sets, but they won't let the boy do that. In fact, I almost bought my kids the kitchen set. I'm still considering it. They learn how to cook because they take care of their dolls. Maybe they're not Barbie dolls, but you see that nurturing. But in reality, what are you seeing in reality in your church, in your community, that's happening, especially the gap between the parents and their children?
Okay, as parents, we really need to get it right from when our children are very young. If we don't get it right at that tender age, it may be too late for us to be able to catch up and nurture these young men and women, that is our children, to be who they are. So as a parent, you really need to be conscious. You really need to take responsibility. You are a mother and you are a father to that child. And you are the first person that this child interacts with. And this child believes in you. And if you are really present in this child's life, you can really be able to mold them into what you want them to be. And so we really need to be present parents in the lives of our children. Even in the church, that is what we are preaching. Be present. I know we are in a fast-paced society life. You see, we are chasing money, we are chasing power, possessions, and the pressures are too much for us. But then, let us not forget that there is another responsibility God has given us. Because the Bible says that a child is a gift that God has given you. And so you need really to take care of this gift intentionally. You need to structure yourself. You really need to create time. They say that you can always create time for that which you love. You cannot always say that you have no time. You create time, you see. And so as parents, let us create time to nurture these children. Bring up your boys in a way that they grow up knowing that even women, they do have a right, you see. And they will grow up to be respectable men, respecting the space for women and giving women the right to air their views, you see. And even for the girls, let us nurture them in a way that they will grow up knowing that they have a position in this world. The position in this world and in this life, it's not for men only. Bring them up in a way that they are courageous, they have the confidence to be able to speak up, you see. And that way, we will be fighting GBV. Because this child, if you are close to her and you bring her up where she will be open to you as a mother or even as a father. Because by the way, a father is the first male figure that a daughter interacts with. And by the way, that is very, very, we really need to be keen there. So as a father, you have two roles. One, you need to be a role model yourself. What kind of language do you speak to your daughter?
Yes,
You
to
see?
your daughter.
And even a son.
Yes.
For instance, if you have a son and a daughter in the house, and you're telling the son, wacha kulia kama msichana. You see? Already you are teaching the son that you are not supposed to express your emotions. And you are teaching the daughter, you are lesser than your brother.
Yeah.
You see? Because you can cry
You can
anyhow.
cry. You're
Do you see?
sensitive.
And so we really need to be intentional as parents
Yes.
on how we bring up our children so that they can grow up with the confidence,
Yes.
with their voice. That is for the girls. And for the men, they need to grow up knowing that men and women are equal. Because these are their sisters, their daughters, their mothers, their aunties.
Yes.
And if we do that from the family level, in the church we still do the same, then the community takes it up, and then we will have a positive community that embraces gender justice and women rights. And the challenges that we are facing today, they will be lesser day by day.
Day by day.
So for me, I believe it comes from how we bring up our children from when they are
They're young. From our households.
Yes.
Before we let the community,
Yes.
the society determine.
Yes.
Because I think we are all familiar with, again, the opposite of our topic today, which is toxic masculinity. You've been seeing tweets and YouTube channels dedicated to teaching men how to be toxic, and it's unfortunate because what you're hearing is very negative topics. And if you've brought up your child to know better, that is just noise. Because can you imagine somebody sits down and says, I'm going to talk about how toxic you should be. And you've seen there's a whole community supporting those conversations. You see someone saying, yeah, I've learned so much from you. And topics that you hear are all against women. You hear you shouldn't date a woman who is above the age of 28. Or you shouldn't look, yes, you shouldn't look at a single mother because they're desperate. You know, it's the whole, that toxicity. You shouldn't, it's like a book of rules that don't make any sense. So I feel like if the foundation is strong, everything else should ideally be noise. Because I'm worried, I'm personally worried that after raising my boys, they will come across such a person and then they start treating women bad. They start sleeping around and causing divorce. I mean, I'm talking of this guy, I know one particular guy, I won't quote him, telling men, you shouldn't be married until you're 40. And if you're getting married, you're marrying a girl who is 20 years old. Like, what is that? A lot of toxicity. But I hear you on the foundation and where it all begins. So for Kendi, could you elaborate what you do on day-to-day activities, just to understand better your role as a gender justice advocate? Yes.
So on a day-to-day basis, I do a lot. As a young woman, I do a lot, but mainly I mentor young girls in schools. And I like starting from the primary school girls, because then you can rescue them. I'm not saying you can't rescue the rest.
The
yeah.
earlier the better.
Yes.
The earlier the better.
Yeah. But I train girls on what sexual violence is, what GBV is, about accepting their bodies, that is bodily integrity, about how to be responsible citizens, because as much as they're children, they also have responsibilities as children. And if they're informed, then they can make better decisions. They can see it coming. That is in the cases of violence, and they can even respond and assist, because sometimes children talk to each other and the result is they just laugh at the other person, and now the other person feels, if this was my small little friend, then even my own mom won't get it, because they were afraid of telling maybe the parents or the grown-up figure in their lives. So on a daily basis, we champion for these girls' rights and educate them, create awareness on these issues, and also involve stakeholders. Remind people that they also have a role. The parents, we do positive parenting for parents in those schools through the teachers, and we tell them, the teachers, and they put the meetings together, we ask them to invite us so that we can say something and remind the parents that they can't leave this fight to us only, that it is all of us. And as she has said, it starts from the family, then school, because most of the time your child spends time in school, then they go on to the community or workplaces or any other place that they work with or are involved in. So that's what we do. Also much with like what I'm doing right now, media advocacy here and there. And we also have, I would like to really mention and appreciate an organization like the YWCA and the Faith to Action Network that have really engaged us as young women to take up leadership of molding our community. That is through part of her trainers in the community dialogues. So we talk to the communities. I get to talk even to the older generation so that we have that intergenerational dialogue and see where they are going wrong, because they're also part of helping us fight the harmful cultural practices and molding the young men, because the young men are looking up to them. And when the young men embrace what we are saying, the older men might be part of telling them, we didn't used to do that. You're contributing to ruining this. So that's what I do. I empower the community as a whole, but my main focus is usually on the girls, the young girls and the young adolescent girls and young women. Yeah, we also have femme spaces. Femme spaces are something like this. We sit with, we usually a group of 10. They have a lead trainer, that is someone who helps them unpackage everything happening in their daily lives, and also encourage them to take up leadership in their personal spaces and fight the small things happening, and also provide a psychosocial support system for the young women and whatever they're facing in the community. So we have such, and that's my daily life. It's all centered on girls, girls and young women.
You can never do enough for the girl.
But we keep on keeping on and making them all-round people. Let's not, I keep saying balance. We can't hold people accountable for one part, maybe the behavioral changes going on, and then we forget why they even embracing those behavioral changes. That would go to these issues, sponsor and all those things. So I can't tell a young woman don't do it, and I'm not telling her the other socio-economical channels she can use. So we talk about those things, and we teach the girls to open their minds up to learning and becoming better, because ultimately, as we say, women hold the keys to a better society.
Very true. And those are statistics we're going to look at. Socioeconomically, women are the ones who are holding this world together. No lie. All right. So we're just going to take a short break. And do not leave. You can grab that glass of water, but make sure you're right back, because the conversation is amazing. We're talking about positive masculinity. How do we balance? How do we just stop this enmity? You know, like, why are we fighting, the boys and the girls? How can we strike a balance between the two genders? We'll be right back.